Welcome to today's WIDERFENNEL webinar, 7 Critical Steps to Winning Conversion Test. Today you will learn how to glean invaluable data from all the experiments you conduct and develop a rock-solid conversion testing process. A few housekeeping items before we get started. There's no need to take notes. The presentation deck will be available to you after the webinar. Questions and comments can be asked in real time by using the questions pane, and there will be a QA session at the end. Tweet this, hashtag 7StepCRO with @Chris Goward. Your presenter today is Chris Goward, co-founder and CEO of WIDERFENNEL. Chris is a marketing strategist and entrepreneur since he began his first web design business in 1994. He developed WIDERFENNEL's methodologies, including the LIFT model and Kaizen, and is in demand globally as a speaker. He also has an upcoming conversion optimization book by Wiley. You should sign up at the WIDERFENNEL blog to be the first in line and have a chance to win a copy when the book is released.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. And we'll get right into today's webinar. And we've got some great content today to talk about. In fact, some brand new stuff that I was just polishing up last night that I wanted to share with you folks. And if you've had a chance to follow us on some of our previous webinars, some of this will be some new content. But first of all, one slide, just to give you some context, because there's probably some of you on here that haven't seen our webinars before and would like to understand the approach and perspective we're taking. So WIDERFENNEL is a conversion optimization agency, and that's all we do is conversion optimization testing. And what we're actually doing is building the world's largest database of test results to find out what actually works in online testing. And I always get this question at the end, so I want to clarify that when we run tests, we do everything from start to finish, from planning and creating a conversion optimization strategy to copywriting, design, HTML coding and execution and results analysis. We also do landing page optimization, which is a subset of conversion optimization. And all of that to investigating what's happening with websites and finding what where the problems are and where opportunities are for improvement. And one other product that we've launched recently based on the request of our clients. In fact, when we're doing our web analytics and our conversion optimization strategies, we're often uncovering insights into the way the paid search is being managed. And often that's some of the most valuable insights we're getting. So some clients have asked us to roll out the paid search audits as a separate product, and we've done that. And the benefit of that is that we don't manage paid search, and so what we can provide is an unbiased perspective and help people to improve their results from their paid search. Perspective on how to improve your paid search results very quickly. So the bottom line is all about results, right? And so far, all of our clients have had conversion rate lift of between 10% and what we're going to talk about today is how to get those kind of results. If you've been on our webinars before, you've seen the results that we're delivering. And so to give you perspective, we consistently are triple-digit returns on conversion rate improvements for our clients. An example of a test that we ran that had up to 162% improvement in one single test in conversion rates. And so, results like that are the ones that we like to talk about, of course. They're easy to tell the story when there's great winning results. And that's usually the story, in fact. And that's why, we're in the business we are, and the process is, and the system that we developed is a key part of that. In fact, I've had many conversations with internal testing teams and other agencies, and the average internal team that I have spoken with gets a win in roughly 1 out of every 3rd test. That's about a 33% conversion rate lift win record. And some of other agencies I've talked to are getting up to a 60% win, which is very good. It's nearly double the internal team's rate. with our system, Widerfunnel's track record is much higher than that. In fact, in Q1 of this year, we ended up with an 89% of all of our tests delivering a conversion rate or revenue lift. So, that's exciting, but there's still that 11%, right? What about the other tests? What about the ones that don't give a win? So, examples like this, where this test ran for longer than we wanted it to run and didn't give a statistically significant conversion rate lift. Inconclusive. So last quarter, 11% of our tests were inconclusive. Now, if you've run any number of tests, you'll find, as we do, that losing tests are pretty rare. You probably prune a losing variation before it goes too far. So, the worst type of test you can think you can get would be an inconclusive one. So how do you look at these tests? Are they a waste of time? Are they just a bummer? You come out with an inconclusive test and have to sort of say, well, back to the drawing board, hope that we get another one, a win next time so we don't waste our time. Well, today we're going to talk about how the 7-step conversion system that Widerfunnel uses gives consistent, great results of conversion rate lift, but also delivers value even from the inconclusive or losing tests. So we're going to look at some winning examples and how to get great results, because those are the ones, at the end of the day, we all want to get, but also how to get value from those other tests. So let's start by taking a look at an example where there was a great win. So I'm giving away the punchline here, but what we'll do is we'll get you to vote in a second on which one you think won, and then look at the results. So this was a landing page for overnight prints. So we were engaged to provide landing page optimization, and this landing page was receiving a lot of traffic from paid and organic search. It was a key component for their advertising campaigns, targeting one of their most important keyword groups, which was business card printing. So it was a great product. This landing page was underperforming, though, and they really needed improvement. So what their goal was for this test, of course, was more business card sales, and that's what we were trying to optimize for. Now, in most cases, and I'm going to go back to basics here for a moment. For some of you, this will be review, but in most cases, when people have a landing page that's underperforming, how do they improve that? They might go to their agency or their internal designer or their cousin down the street and say, we need to improve this page. How can we do it? And they'll look at best practices and read blogs and try and find, how to get a better conversion rate on that page, right? How do you get more people to buy? Well, a lot of people are using what you may have heard of called the HIPPO method, right, where the highest paid person's opinion is involved. So, your agency or designer or cousin will present your new design concepts for your landing page, and the HIPPO points at the one they like, and of course they have an opinion, so they'll tell you what what'll work best, right? And that's the one that goes live on the website. Other people that are using an agency will use the black turtleneck method, right? It's the person who's in the boardroom wearing the sunglasses, and they've got a lot of opinions, and they'll tell you which one will perform best because based on their experience, they know. So those are failed methods that people have been using for years and decades to create their marketing. And what we do is something, and what I believe most of you that Widerfunnel developed for continuous improvement. We can actually find out what our customers respond to. And so that works by sending your traffic and your visitors randomly to see variations of the pages, what we call challenger pages, that are tested concurrently with your original control page and then tracked via all of the different response channels, whether it's phone calls or emails or form fills or e-commerce purchases or affiliate revenue clicks, to find out which variations actually work best. And so that's what we did with overnight prints and tested several variations, and here are two of them. What we're going to do here is get you to vote on which one you think won. So variation A on the left here is, and these are dramatically different layout variations. So there's not a lot of isolation happening right here. But what happened is we wanted to find out what was the most important thing to emphasize above the fold. Did we talk about the value proposition of the overnight prints business card printing with the pricing, and then get into the the options for starting your business card design down below, or we start with the value proposition, have a call to action above the fold on the right, straight in the iFlow area with the pricing below. So I'm going to get you to vote here on which one you think won. Was it variation A? So we'll open up the polls now. And was it variation A, where we had value proposition and pricing above the fold and the call to action below, or variation B, where we had the value proposition in the center column with the pricing below and the call to action on the right? So we'll see your votes coming in. And let's see, most people are voting out. Interesting results we've got coming in. So let's flip to look at the results here of the vote. And what we're seeing is most people voting for variation A, which is great, because when we look at the results, that is the one that won. And in fact, we had a 184% conversion rate lift with variation A. So fantastic. If you voted for variation A, give yourself a raise, and a big one at that, because 184% increase is nothing to sneeze at. So let's take a look at another variation that was tested, where in this case we had an isolation. And here was the original variation A that we looked at, and another one, variation B, which had the same layout. So what we're isolating here is this image. The effect of these people combined with the business cards and testimonial versus removing the people and just having the business cards and testimonials. So let's open up the polls again and take a look at which one you think won. So was it the people with the business cards and testimonial, which is A, or with no people, which is B? All right. Some of you still have to vote. That's okay. Don't be shy. Nobody's watching too closely. We won't mock you, I promise. All right. So we've got most of the votes coming in. Let's take a look at the results. And wow, look at that. Not surprisingly, variation A with the best practices, smiling, happy people, had the highest number of votes with 56%, and 44% voted for variation B. Unfortunately, in this case, the majority was wrong. So, in fact, variation B had a 235% conversion rate lift over the control. So, again, if you voted for B, pat yourself on the back. Unfortunately for these folks, their image is no longer on the landing page for overnight prints, and they're probably not happy about having their page removed, their picture removed, but it's for the good of the company. I'll tell you someone who is happy about having their picture removed, and that's Brian Beck, the COO of Overnight Prints. And what he said is that the tests we run have substantially increased the business card printing sales and continue to improve from that. So that's fantastic. So how do we get results? Let's take a look at how you can get results like this in your websites. What we're talking about today is the 7-step conversion optimization system. And first of all, we're going to go into the 7-step system here in a moment, but I want to show you that it's working in all industries. So whether you're in B2B or B2C, e-commerce, lead gen, or affiliate, you can apply these to your website. You can apply these principles and the frameworks and the process that we're using today. And that's why I'm showing you this right now. You'll recognize some of the logos. But the point is that we've tested this system and this process and the findings that we're getting in all industries, and people are people. Whether they're in Salesforce buying something for their company, whether they're sitting in in one of these companies, or whether they're at home buying socks in their underwear, people are motivated by the same drivers. So let's take a look at the system. First of all, we start with the strategy. We start by understanding the problems on the page, and the way we do that is with a framework that we developed called the LIFT model. And I'll show you briefly how that works. And for some of you that have been on our webinars before, you've seen this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but there's more information on our blog if you'd like to find out more about the LIFT model. Go to just Google Widerfunnel LIFT. But essentially, we look at the 6 conversion factors that affect conversion rates. They include the value proposition, which is the core of your offering, the perceived costs and benefits, the relevance to the visitor's needs, and the relevance of the presentation to the source media and where they're coming from and their mindset. We look at the clarity of the presentation, which includes the clarity of the eye flow, the clarity of the words that are used, the clarity of the call to action. And we look at things that are detracting from your value proposition presentation. Things like anxiety, which create uncertainty in the visitor's mind of taking an action. There's distraction or anything that's a lack of focus on the page. Anything that's redirecting attention from the primary message and the primary call to action. And then, of course, urgency is why should I act now? So we look at these 6 factors, and this is the LIFT model framework that you can use right now to apply to your website and use to think about how your web pages and your marketing activities and your emails and all of your media is interacting and being absorbed by your visitors. So looking at an example, this is the homepage for Outrigger.com, and this was a page they came to us with a few months back. And it's a beautifully designed page. Their designer had done a great job of presenting something that's aesthetically pleasing. He forgot one thing, and that is that the main call to action, which was this booking widget, was actually hidden below the fold. So when people were trying to understand, when they first viewed this page, on a designer's screen, they're seeing this whole page, in all its glory from top to bottom. But on a lot of people's screens, in a typical 768 and even more on an iPad, the content below the fold is hidden. So it was unclear what to do. Maybe you're thinking you should click this button up here or click some of these links, and in fact, they were less important than that widget down below the fold. And then analyzing the rest of the factors, we identified several other things that were problems. In fact, these are the highest priority ones, but there were many factors on this page that were affecting conversion rates. So the value proposition, there's lack of headline right there, distraction, clarity, anxiety factors, and urgency. And so applying the results of previous tests, we can see patterns on what works and what's causing problems on these pages. And that's the important part, is that these tests, your tests, should not be driven by just the designer's idea of what's beautiful and what should work better. Design principles are often created by artists, and they're not created by people necessarily that are looking for conversion rate lift results. So by analyzing the conversion problems, you can come with much better hypotheses, and converting those problem points into hypotheses will lead to better conversion tests. So what we do is we take each of these points. So for example, if there was a clarity point where our strategists were to say that the main call to action is hidden below the fold, well, what's a strength? How can we flip that into a hypothesis? What we do is say, okay, placing the call to action above the fold will increase conversions, and now that is a testable hypothesis. And then we go down the list for each of these factors and flip them into hypotheses, and then look at which of these hypotheses are very important to understand. Which ones should we isolate, and which ones, conversely, should we cluster together to just aim for the fences, swing for the fences, and get a big lift in conversion rates. And that's where the skill of a strategist will come into play as well, in really understanding where is the potential for marketing insights. So the 3 characteristics of a great hypothesis to understand if you're doing something that will deliver powerful results. Number 1, a hypothesis needs to be testable. It's something that, if a hypothesis says changing the headline from nothing to a headline that encapsulates the value proposition and leads to the call to action, that's something you can test and see, does that improve conversion rates? Or testing a headline that emphasizes discount prices versus a headline that emphasizes valuable service. That's a headline that you can test that really aims at the value proposition insight. So that's an isolated test, testable hypothesis. The second factor that's very important is that it seeks to solve conversion problems. And that's why we start with the lift analysis rather than starting with just random design variations by saying, a green button versus a blue button will improve results. Well, that's not really solving a problem in most cases. That's just sort of random design testing. But by creating hypotheses that aim to solve conversion problems, you'll get much better results and have, most importantly, something to build on, because as in your third point for a great hypothesis is that you'll be aiming at marketing insights. And this is where we get into advanced conversion optimization, where it's not just about getting conversion rate lift, although that's the whole point ultimately. It's looking at these marketing insights, we can actually improve in the next rounds of tests even more than in a current test. So that's what we're going to talk about here in a moment as well. All right, so we've got our lift analysis to find the conversion problems. We've created them into hypotheses, and then next we want to create a funnel experiment map, or that's what we call a test design document. The funnel experiment map essentially makes sure that we've got the whole team and all the stakeholders involved and on board and understanding what the test is about, and making sure that we preempt any problems down the road, as well as once you put something in writing, there's value in that, in simply being able to understand what the strategy is behind this test and get feedback on it. So we put this plan in writing. It should include things like the test structure, the traffic sources and volumes, the calculation of the number of variations that you can run with the type of traffic you have, and that helps you to avoid other problems like running too many variations or having tests that are poorly planned and can run forever. The test plan should include the wireframes, things like whatever to structure how it will run. And these plans will, may vary on the structure. The important part is to have this process in place of documenting what you're doing. Helps provide a lot of help at the end too when you're analyzing your results, and you can look back and easily say, see why you had done what you did. All right, so then once you've got your funnel experiment map or your test design document agreed, you'll notice here that we've gone through 3 steps of the process and haven't talked about design at all. We haven't talked about a copywriter. They haven't been involved necessarily in the process. Or they may have been in having input on the strategy, but it's not a design-led exercise. Whereas a lot of times we're hearing people running tests, and that's why perhaps they're not getting the kind of results that they would hope for, is they might be throwing a designer in the room and just saying, just come up with some variations for this page and tell us, come up with 3 variations and we'll see what works better. But that's not being strategy-led. That's really, the tail wagging the dog. So what we do next is involve graphic design and copywriting. So the order of these steps is critically important for getting consistent results. Start with the analysis of finding the problems, and then monitoring it on an ongoing basis to make tactical maneuvers on when you should prune variations or when you should speed up the test or slow down the test with the amount of traffic that's involved. And then, of course, we want to look at the results. So here are 2 variations for that outrigger test where we looked at the home page, analyzed it, created variations, and let's take a look at what happened here and which one won. So variation A was a variation where we emphasized their primary property. This is, so Outrigger, if you're not familiar with them, they're a chain of resorts and hotels in the South Pacific. They've got properties in Hawaii, Guam, Fiji, Bali, Australia, and this was their showpiece resort in Hawaii where they had a beautiful shot, and the goal here was to create a stickier page where people would see this beautiful hotel and then would have the call to action directly to the right of that, and then have other properties down below that they could choose from. Variation B showed the 5 different areas that you can choose to find your resort, and then you can drill through there to find the actual properties and book, or else you can look down below for the booking widget. So, using your conversion skills, let's vote on which one you think had the highest online booking rate. So the goal was to increase online bookings. Variation A had the premier property image, a single image focused the eye and moved it to the call to action on the right. Variation B had the 5 tiles of the various properties. So you can vote for A or B, and which one you think had the highest bookings. All right, we see the votes coming in. And good, most of you have voted now. Excellent, let's close the poll and take a look at the results. And wow, this is a nail biter. We've got 52% voting for A and 48% on B. So again, you know, sitting at your boardroom, looking at these designs by your agency, how do you choose? Well, you're going to have a tug of war, looks like, in the boardroom because, you know, there's some disagreement on which one will produce better results. But fortunately, we tested it, and variation B had a 60% lift in resort bookings. So let's have a show of hands. How many think that impacted the business results? So, all right. So we've seen some results of how it works well. What about those inconclusive tests, right? What about the ones where you don't get the big green bar and the pat on the back for getting the conversion rate lift? That's why we have the results analysis step. The results analysis is one of the most important steps in the system, where you analyze the results to find out more than just the what that happened in the test, more than just which one won and which one lost and which one should we implement and which one should we scrap, and aims at the why behind it. And that's very important to getting those insights that can lead to even bigger improvement. Our conversion strategists gain those insights because they aren't just satisfied with what was tested. They dig to understand the why behind it. Why did this particular audience act this way? What other similar audiences have we seen? And how can we adapt other discoveries to apply here in this particular scenario? So let's take a look at a couple examples of what I mean. And this is the humbling part, where when we see a result like this, it's easy to want to fall on our sword and say, oh my goodness, how does this happen? We've got underperforming variations, right? These are underperforming against the control. So this was a test we ran, and I'm admitting that this is a test we ran that had underperforming variations against the control. Now, we stopped the test to make sure we didn't harm any business results, and then went into the analysis to find out why are some of these variations performing worse than others. And by comparing variations, for example, A have a statistically significant difference, but at this point it doesn't matter. It is directional hints to how we could improve the control. And so by taking those insights into the why behind these variation differences, we could rerun another test, start another test with those insights in tow, going into our planning process, and then here's the result. This is the follow-up test after that first test, where we ended up getting a 16% lift in online bookings for a consumer service. So fantastic. Now let's take a look at another one. Here again, we've got an inconclusive result. This is the one we saw at the beginning of today's presentation, where this test had run for quite some time, and we were still only getting marginal lifts and some marginal decreases in conversion rate. So again, analyzing the differences in these variations to understand the marketing insights behind it, we're able to glean some of these insights, and at the end of the day, this was the next test for this client. 134% lift in conversion rate. So the point I want to make here is that there is no losing test. There is no waste of time test. Every test gives you learning, and if you are can be disciplined mentally not to give up on those tests and gather the insights from them, you glean whatever insights into the why behind those results, you'll be paid in dividends, ongoing dividends with your follow-up tests. All right. So I want to underline 3 takeaways, and then we've got some more news after this that I want to share with you. First of all, I hope you're taking away that you need a testing system to get consistent results. We've seen this through research. There was an e-consultancy report showing the correlation between companies that had a testing process in their conversion optimization versus those that didn't, and how those that were very satisfied with their testing results were much more likely to have a process that they used that was a defined, structured process and a system like the process we're talking about today. The second is to analyze the results for the marketing insights. Right? We've talked about that, moving from the what to the why, to understand the reasons that people are acting the way they are. Why are they perhaps responding to a call to action on the left page of the page versus the right-hand side of the page? Is it because they're in a hurry? And so how can we create more variations that emphasize that insight into their activity? And then third, don't give up on inconclusive tests. There's hidden gold in these tests. Time and time again, we see this and we find that gold and can get those follow-up test results that provide a winning lift. All right, so you know, we do these webinars every month, and I really enjoy doing them, and they're a lot of fun, and I hope you are getting a lot of value out of them too. You know, I've been told by our sales team that, you know, at the end of the day, you've actually got to tell them that they can actually work with us as well. So if you're on this webinar, if you want higher conversion rates, we work with high traffic website owners to drive more sales. And we're building the world's largest database of what works, and as I mentioned earlier, and this helps us to get results faster because we've seen correlation of insights that we're gathering in different industries that can actually apply to totally disparate industries. In fact, we're finding some insights from B2B that works really well with B2C e-commerce, and coming up with things that you'd never see because most people in a particular industry are really focused on their direct competitors all around them. But unfortunately, we can't work with everyone. So, you know, we'd love to have a chance, if you do qualify, just send an email to hello@widerfunnel.com to see if you qualify. Just send us the URL of the to get. So another thing I want to mention is there's a special announcement here where you can actually, this is a free website that we've developed where you can actually go and guess more tests, get the results of those tests, and actually view whole case studies and find out what really works. It's at conversionskills.com, and again, it's a free website. One of these things that we do because you know, we love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. And we've had a lot of fun with and good feedback from these webinars that people enjoy the guessing game. And so you can do that at your own time and spread it around to your friends at conversionskills.com. Maybe they haven't had a chance to view the webinar. So I hope that was helpful today, and we're going to have some time. Remember that it's on the right-hand side, so if you do have questions, you can go ahead and answer them or enter them there, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. And if you'd like a copy of the presentation as well, go ahead and email hello@widerfunnel.com. We'll make sure we get that to you, and you'll also get an email with the presentation in the next couple days. All right, so there are a couple questions here that I'll address right now. And right, so there's a question here from Jason. Can you achieve the same conversions for B2B? And yeah, Jason, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. We, you know, we're seeing there's about a 50-50 split right now in our business between B2B and consumer marketing, and we're seeing dramatic conversion rate lifts in both. And as I was saying a moment ago, in fact, it's really interesting to see some of the principles that we're seeing, you know, gathering in B2B applying to B2C and vice versa. So, you know, as I said, people are people wherever they are in whatever business they're in. And you know, there's a lot of great case studies. If you go to our website, widerfunnel.com, go into under the tab that says what you get, and there's case studies there, and you'll find some B2B examples there that you can learn from. All right, question here. What A/B testing software do you use? Yeah, we actually are software agnostic. So there's a variety of tools that we've used for testing. You know, since early days, before In fact, we started testing long before Google released Website Optimizer, but we also became their first authorized consultant here and for Google Website Optimizer, and we've developed all kinds of hacks and extensions, and we actually use that tool, or have used that tool a lot. But there's a variety of other tools that we use. Omniture has a test and target tool, and we've used them since before they were Omniture, back when they were Offermatica. Optimizely is a good tool. We use Liveball from Ion Interactive. There are all kinds of testing tools coming out, but the technology really is almost a non-issue. You know, what we do is find the technology that works best with a particular website's infrastructure or a testing strategy, or where they're at in the evolution of their testing planning, and find the tool that works to get the results. Testing tools are testing tools, and at the end of the day, if they can run an A/B test, we're getting the best results. So don't be fooled by testing tools that talk about their multivariate capability or their targeting capability or some of the more advanced stuff. Those things can be done with virtually any tool, and in fact, we'll get better results by focusing on strategy-led A/B testing, and so that's where we focus our attention. All right, bunch of good questions here. Let's see. Do you work in the daily deal industry? We absolutely, actually we have. That's a good question. So follow up with an email to hello@widerfunnel.com, and we can help figure out exactly what's working for you there, and if there's something specific we can help you with. What else do we have here? What was the goal of this test? Was it to increase conversion rate or average order value? That's for overnight prints. That was to increase conversion rate for overnight business card print sales. Now, when we do e-commerce conversion optimization, we will track multiple metrics. So in addition to conversion rate can be very important, but you're getting at a good point there that average order value is also very important and can be more important in some cases. So we'll track conversion rate for the purpose of statistical significance, but then look at average order value, total revenue, revenue per visitor, or some of the more important KPIs for that business to find out and sanity check to make sure that the winning conversion result was also the winning revenue result. In most cases it is, but in some cases it's not, and that can lead to some very interesting hypotheses and better tests in the following rounds to emphasize the things that increased revenue, but also mitigate them with the things that increase conversion rate as well, and often get that ideal result of a variation that improves both. All right, what's the best way to test a lower traffic page? Great question, and that's a situation that a lot of people are in. If you've got traffic, less than 10 or 20,000 visitors in a month, what you need to do, there's several ways to get results faster. And the most important, so if you're testing minutia, testing button color or headline color, it'll probably take a long time to get results. And so you want to try by looking from the perspective of the visitor at what would be a completely different way to approach this page. And I didn't show examples in this one. I've shown examples of case studies before where we have dramatic redesigns that get huge conversion rate lifts very quickly because they're a completely different approach. So you've got to be dramatic to get results quickly, but even if your traffic is very low, there's no harm in having a test in market. So if you've got a lower traffic page, go ahead and launch a test and leave it running for as long as it needs to take, because at the worst case scenario, you're going to end up with an insight and a conversion rate lift, and hopefully you can increase traffic to it and get some lift or faster results from it. Another approach to take that we've often done is to look at when there are similarities in the types of traffic mix, is looking for a page that has high traffic and testing more variations on that page, and then taking the winning variation and testing just a simple A/B against a lower traffic page, so that then we can take the learnings from one that has more traffic to play with and apply that and also test it against the lower traffic one that we may be able to get faster results with just a simple 2-variation A/B test. Okay, another question, how do you track customer value versus conversion rate? Have you had times when conversion rates are going up, but customer value is going down? No, there's more to this question. Do you have steps you can take to pre-test and avoid a reduction? Right. So on the technical side of it, there's always ways of tying in revenue to the variation. So we'll use the existing analytics tool or a testing tool that also includes revenue tracking to test that. I'm not sure if that's what the question's getting at, but the results of those tests can often be very interesting. But in terms of how, if we're using for example, the Google suite, we can use Google Website Optimizer to run the test, integrate it with Google Analytics to look at e-commerce value, especially if you've got e-commerce already set up in Google Analytics. It can be very easy to do. It's also very easy to do with Omniture tools, or if you've got other e-commerce tracking tools. What we can do is just feed parameters through to track those variables on the back end. So if there's always a way to cobble those things together and get that data that we need to analyze the results. Okay, you know what? There are a bunch of questions coming in here, and we're not going to have time to get to them all. But what I'd like to do is follow up. Go ahead and ask those questions, and if you have other questions, you can send them to hello@widerfunnel.com. And what we'll do is follow up by email with answers to those questions. And I've been also like to follow up with a blog post to answer some of the more common ones that we're getting here that we've seen over the last few webinars, and I'm going to compile those in the next couple of weeks. So also go to widerfunnel.com/blog and sign up for that, and you'll make sure that you get all the answers to everyone's questions on the blog. And that'll be the best way to make sure that everyone's involved. And in fact, go ahead and ask questions on the blog right now, because you can go into the comment section, ask questions, and we'll see that on the team and start a discussion right there. So widerfunnel.com/blog, and hope to see you there and meet you in the forums. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We had a great crowd here, really interactive here with lots of great questions. So again, we'll follow up with that. And again, if you want to copy the presentation or to find out if you qualify for the to work with WiderFunnel, email hello@widerfunnel.com, and we'd be happy to help you out there.